What's up, guys? Welcome back to Lab Rats. And today I've got two of my favorite people on here. And I know I say that a lot, but these guys are 10 out of 10 incredible entrepreneurs, marketers, and just overall incredible dudes. So I want to introduce you guys to Hickenlooper and Dan Page. These guys, I've been connected with them for years, and they have built a massive agency, at least comparatively to what we're doing here at Film Lab, right? They've done extremely well, and their whole process and what they focus on is serving the underserved. Did I get that right?
That's about right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Something like that.
We like that.
Yeah. So they really are so great at working with small businesses and helping them get their name out there. They do run ads, SEO, marketing strategy, design. They really just handle it and take care of everything a small business would need. And they just do it for them at a ridiculously great price while bringing insane value. So I want to bring them on here today because I think you guys as creatives are going to be able to learn a lot from them about what marketers and what brands and businesses are needing from us as creatives. What are the things that we can deliver to actually bring value and help bring results? So without further ado, what's up, dudes?
What's up?
It's good to have you guys on.
We're so excited to be on Rablats.
Rablats, dude?
Rablats.
Yeah.
We're now calling it that.
Rablats
We're
from
now
now
calling
on.
it that.
Yeah, before when you were bringing that up, I was like, yeah, I'm not a good example of having Rablats, dude.
Yeah,
I don't
dude,
lift
me
enough.
either. Me
I was
either.
telling Dan I do about 3 pull-ups and feel like my body's about to rip out of my arms.
I
you know?
can't do
It's
a pull-up.
fine. It's fine.
You can't? I feel
No.
better now,
Yeah.
especially since you're just running half
You're-
marathons every other week.
You're two ahead of where he would be. So
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take
3
that.
ahead of where I'd be.
I thought you said you could do one.
I
Oh,
cannot.
you can't do a single
Not
one.
even.
That's all right. All right, pull-up competition after this, boys.
All
It's
right.
happening. Yeah, we'll cut that in. But guys, I'm really excited to have you on because, again, I think the people who are listening are these aspiring creatives, and we call them lab rats because it's all about experimentation, right? It's all about trying new things and trying to figure out what's actually working, what's bringing results. And you guys are actually seeing the data all day, every day. Like you guys are seeing what's actually working and bringing results for your clients versus us. We're just making stuff, throwing it up in the wall and hoping it works out for them.
Mm.
And it's usually beautiful stuff.
Yeah, it's beautiful stuff, but is it making them money?
And that's the question.
Yeah.
I think that's the question at the end of the day. I think professional content versus, iPhone / what's authentic, what's not. And I think there's 100% place for both.
Yeah.
And I think lately, in the last probably couple of years, the more behind the scenes style content, the less professional content has performed better, at least in our experience, than more
Which hurts my
professional
heart.
content. I know.
It hurts me, but it's true because it's
Yeah.
more genuine, right? I
Yep.
think our BS radars are so much more finely tuned because we've been advertised to our whole lives.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's 100% a place for really professional creative, right?
Where do you see that?
I think it belongs. It should belong to the brand, if that makes sense. It should be more or less brand storytelling. Should be professional.
Yeah.
I personally agree.
Mhm.
I think there's a place for also not professionally done content in the brand side
For
too.
sure.
But I think stuff that's on your website, stuff that how you're presenting the brand, especially if it's a little bit more in the luxury end of things. Professional content's going to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want Gucci ads filmed on an iPhone.
I have seen it done, bro.
Have you really?
Yeah. Or at least it looks like
It
that.
looks like that.
Yeah.
That's
But-
maybe disappointing in their team. You're like, this looks like it was done on an
It's
iPhone.
like,
I don't know
this
how
is
good
a lot
it
more like achievable than I thought. So
Well, I'm working on building a product brand right now, and I think
tell more.
the thing that I'm recognizing is where I want high quality, high end content is going to be on my website, for example, as well as like hero ads and awareness ads. When it comes to conversion based content, I'm gonna want more of that
Quick, snappy.
like TikTok style content, right? That 9x16, I'm in your face talking to you as a consumer to consumer. And that doesn't always convert. It depends on the brand and what you're going for. But I think that the interesting thing about the creative world is like you guys are all out here creating really cool art in a lot of ways, right? Like it is art. It's a form of art. So then the best creatives have analytical minds.
Yeah.
So they can be creative, but also analytical and say, I'm willing to give up the view I had for this so that this can convert and actually turn into sales for your product or leads for your company.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where creatives can really thrive if they're trying to work in like the ad space or if they're trying to work in the advertising marketing space, compared to if you're a creative just wanting to make something really cool for a brand and like a hero video, it's going to be completely different.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us creatives want whatever we make to be our own personal expression and of creative fulfillment, right? We want to be so proud of everything that we're doing. But at the end of the day, people aren't paying us to bolster our creative ego, right? They're paying us to get results. And that's what you guys are facilitating with your agency and what you're building out, which is cool.
Well, and it's hard as a creative. Like I am formerly also a professional photographer, and
Your photos still slap. Come on.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I still do photography, but
Formerly
it's not,
and currently.
Formerly and currently. I don't do it for like money anymore.
Right.
But I think we attach our self-worth, we attach our ego to our work majorly, and that's I think I'm probably broad generalization in the creative world, but I think it's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
And I think you definitely have to let that go. I'm trying to remember this quote. I don't remember who said it, but it's something like,
you better give him credit.
Well, I'll try to.
Jay Shetty.
Yeah, it's probably Jay Shetty. It's, bad design is things that look really good but perform poorly, right? Good design is when things, more or less look okay and perform really well. And great design is when it looks good and performs really good, right? So, and that's across the board, whether it be video, whether it be the website design, whether it be a piece of, graphic or static or whatever. So you've got to understand how people convert, and you've got to also present it really well.
We had someone send us an ad the other day for their company. They do advertising for Amazon companies, and they had a really good videographer create some content for them, and they sent it over, and it looked fantastic. Right, shot really well, lit really well, everything about it looked great, but it wasn't formatted for TikTok ads or Instagram stories where you're going to get really high performing results. And it also didn't have captions on it. Obviously, that you might not want captions on it if you're embedding it on your website because it might look a little bit tacky. But when we're running it as an ad,
reformat it, bro.
Yeah, you want it reformatted, and we want captions that are easy to read because most of the time people are watching an Instagram story or a TikTok. They're at work and they got their headphones in, or they don't have headphones in, or they're on a plane, or, they're trying to actually get that content into their system. And it's, I guess, just ads have a lot of nitty gritty things that are boring and stupid to creators. It's like, captions, obviously.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it might be obvious to you guys who are seeing the results of like, okay, this didn't have captions, this wasn't formatted very correctly, versus something that was made intentionally to convert, whether it was through scripting or how it was shot with captions, whatever it is. Like, you guys are seeing the results. And so I guess my next question would be like, what are you looking for in creative that you are seeing actually converts? Because again, the people who are listening, like, this is where, guys, as creatives, we need to shift our mindset to, again, how are we bringing value and how are we bringing results? Because when we bring results, that's when more creative freedom will come. That's when more opportunities will actually come.
Yeah.
And I think it depends on the creator you want to be. There's plenty of creators that just create to make art and to create and screw conversion. Like, it doesn't matter.
It's like a Justin Bieber music video.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Like,
it's art, so it's different. But if you want to be focused on conversion, I think the main thing is those first couple seconds, right? Your hook for how you're going to keep them, continuing to watch, and then the second thing would be pretty much being able to chop something up so that you can have one, multiple formats, and two, that you can, keep their attention. And, somebody that is perfected this is Mr. Beast.
He's so good.
Is just like, I mean, unbelievably, one, creative, and two, extremely analytical. If you've ever listened to anything that he's ever said on podcasts or any interviews he's given, he's, I mean, one of the probably outside of YouTube and outside of the creator world, probably one of the only experts on like the YouTube algorithm and content performance, you know, like unbelievable master of it, right? Cutting things every several seconds to keep somebody's attention. So now granted, that kind of content's very different than, you know, a lot of other things. So, but in my opinion, I think the biggest things to learn are, one, being able to shoot in multiple formats. If you're going to be a creative for an agency or shoot content for a brand that's going to use it for performance, shooting in multiple formats, landscape, vertical, and giving the brand or the agency lots of options. And then two, being able to, you know, shoot and deliver a final product that will keep attention is a huge deal.
Well, I think also for creatives, if you want to build a successful business, you have multiple ways to do it, because you guys are in this unique situation where your skills in editing and shooting are only becoming more valuable because content is becoming more valuable to every brand and every business because we're all consuming so much more of it online. So like an example would be Film Lab, right? Like Film Lab can have its own YouTube channel where they have creative freedom. They can do whatever they want. They can be really unique. You're targeting creatives. So transitions, the way you shoot things, that's all going to be really important and people are going to love that. But then you have this other side to your business where you're trying to maybe work with agencies like us. And if you're trying to do that, instead of sending us a deck where you say, hey, we'll send you 3 videos that are 30 seconds each, that's not interesting. Right. What's interesting is we'll send you 3 videos that are tailored towards conversion, right? And the way that we do that is we're going to send you something in 9:16. We're going to send you something formatted for YouTube. They're all going to be 30 seconds. They're going to have the psychology of selling built in, right? So we're going to have a hook. We're going to have a call to action in there. They're going to have captions on them. Like that's what interests us, where we're like, okay, now we know we can send you a product. You're going to give us a hook. You're going to give us a call to action. You're going to give us a UGC testimonial. Like that's what we're interested in. And that might be the boring part of creative work. You're like, oh my gosh, doing the same thing over and over. But you have creative freedom in other aspects of your business, right? Like podcasts, YouTube, and even your own personal socials. Those are where you can be really creatively free. And then on the other side, it's like, yeah, we're building this with the psychology of selling built in. And here's the package. That's where I think creatives, they build those decks. Agencies are like, yeah, we'll eat that up. We're very interested, you know?
Okay. I'm over here taking notes.
Options. I think that's the biggest thing. And then especially, you know, nowadays, I think the days of like the hero video being like the main thing that carries you for months and months and months is kind of over with how fast we consume content. And so the
chamber media, that style of content, right?
And I think it still performs. Like, don't get me wrong, that stuff still performs, but I don't think it performs as well as creative refreshing consistently.
It's the unique product too. Like Chamber Media, Harmon Brothers kill it with those hero videos on a unique, very unique product. Purple mattress, we got eggs on it, we throw it down.
Something that nobody's ever seen, you know, before.
Like really, or Pillow Cube incredibly. Like they kill it because they got that unique product value prop where that isn't necessarily going to work for a plumber. It's also not going to work for a company that doesn't have as interesting or patented value prop. So
or they just can't afford to spend $100,000 on a built out piece.
Dude,
or
$100,000 is like nothing to, you know, like they're charging $250,000 to $500,000 for 2 videos.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee that's going to perform. You've got to have the best product in the world.
And you just got to please the algorithm gods. You never know.
So, that too. And you got to do like, I think one piece that we're probably missing is you really have to know your audience. Like you really, really, really have to understand your audience beyond the product. Because hopefully your products or service is actually, there's demand out there for it. And if not, you have to create demand, which is a whole different way of marketing. And so you really have to understand your audience at the end of the day. That's what it all comes down to.
What's that quote where Jay Shetty probably? I'm just kidding. There's a quote.
We're just crapping on Jay Shetty.
No, all love to Jay Shetty.
All love to Jay Shetty. Oh yeah, we can't. You guys shop for
Hey,
Jay
we
Shetty.
we do work for Jay Shetty. Jay, we love you, man.
Yeah, take this out. What was I going to say? Oh, there's a story that has been passed down from generation to generation.
In the Hickenlooper family.
In the Hickenlooper family. I don't know. You've probably heard this.
The
but
marketing agency family.
A sales guy gets hired to go to Brazil and sell shoes. And he goes down there and comes back 2 months later and it was like, I can't sell any shoes. Nobody wears shoes in Brazil. Like, it's not worth it. And then another guy goes out and he's out there for 2 months, sells out of the shoes, comes back and he goes, oh my gosh, that was awesome. Nobody in Brazil wears shoes. So everyone needed them. So it's that, like,
it's just a mindset shift.
Yeah. It's creating demand, right? There were two different marketing approaches there. One completely failed and one totally succeeded. So as a creative, you have to consider that, like, the psychology of selling and everything that goes into before you make a video is so critical compared to, like, I just want to get this cool product spinning and some smoke and fire in the background, right? It's like, you've got to understand the product from the consumer perspective and why they need it. And then that's the video you make. It's about the consumer. It's not about the product.
Sheesh. I hope everybody listening is taking notes because I am, like, over here like, yes. So I guess the question, like, where did you guys learn all of this? Are you gaining this knowledge from building your own business, from working with creatives, from your agency that you've done? Like, where are you guys learning all of this information?
I mean, a lot of my past experience before we started Scroll was in working with influencers, influencer marketing, doing a lot of content and photography. So I think I learned a lot about content and design. And I've always felt like I've had a design eye. I just was in that kind of family growing up. And so, but I feel like that's where I got my knowledge, and then just injecting that now into more or less performance marketing and learning by testing, learning by working with clients. It's not like it came overnight. Like, we had to grind and really, work hard with our clients the last couple of years to continue to learn what's working. And that changes. It changes every couple months. There's a new algorithm update or TikTok blows up. And so there's now a whole new brand new platform that didn't really exist a couple of years ago. That's just destroying everything, and short form wasn't even a thing, you know? So I think really you've got to understand taking your creative experience. And if you want to, like, grow it, I guess you've got to test, you've got to start working with clients to figure out what's working.
Yeah. Theory only goes so far.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to actually put it into action.
Execute.
Yeah. I think I've learned more from the failures we've had than the successes, because when a business that we're working with fails, it's easy to look back and be like, here were the three things that they missed. They weren't willing to produce content that featured them in it. They weren't willing to produce content that was about the consumer and not their product or service, right? Like, and we learn it in our own business. Like, we run ads for ourselves, and although we're not a product-based business, we're selling a service, and our ads that talk about us don't do anywhere near as well as our ads that talk about the struggles that our potential customers face. So, like, I think we just learn it over time, but really it's seeing the failures of a lot of the businesses that we have seen fail and being like, oh,
okay,
here's
lesson
why.
learned.
But also, we're not as unique as we think we are. Like, when we see TikTok ads or ads online or businesses that resonate with us, they're resonating with a lot of people.
Right.
So analyze what's working really well for the masses, and you'll figure out pretty quickly what's working well, right?
Yeah.
Like, who are some of the biggest brands you can think of that are killing it on TikTok right
Midday Squares, dude.
Yeah. Midday Squares is
and
they're killing it on LinkedIn too.
Really?
You should follow the founder. He's like, I mean, they kind of want to be like the reality Kardashians of the chocolate world. That's like their thing. But he's very active on LinkedIn, and it's been really interesting to see. He documents everything on LinkedIn of, like, what's going on, and it's been cool.
So what's their product? What does it do? It's chocolate.
It's just yummy chocolate, dude.
Is it caffeinated?
They
Is that why
they
it's
go against
midday?
big chocolate. I don't, honestly,
Yeah.
I don't even know. I just know their story, and I've just watched videos about their chocolate machine breaking down, and I'm so dang invested in the whole thing. I don't even know much about their product, but I'm bought in.
Dude, okay, so
Yeah.
this is
Which is
interesting.
crazy.
This
Yeah,
is
this is
maybe
really interesting.
even different than what I was saying, where I'm like making it about the consumer, where this is more of storytelling and it's not about the product,
Yeah,
right?
it's about it, and I think there's both, but it's definitely about them.
Yep.
And I think that's the also one thing that creatives can learn from and improve on is like telling your story is just as important as, you know, the product story, right? And that goes for the brand themselves and you as a creative. So I think when we look at like some of our best performing stuff are on our side for Scroll and for clients that we've worked with, it like honestly has come down to telling good stories, whether it be about the product or service or whether it be about the founder themselves, right? People want to work with people at the end of the day, no matter if the product's really good or not. I think I can't remember where I heard this too. It was probably another podcast or something, but it was a B2B software company, and they were going through all of their recent clients that they had onboarded, and they had like a customer relations specialist who was like asking them like, why did you choose us? And there was a lot of reasons that like marketing attribution said, hey, they found us on Google search, or they chose us because they heard of us on a podcast, or they chose working with us because of blah, 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 all this stuff. But when that person ended up actually talking with the people who had all onboarded in the last, you know, couple weeks, every single person said, it was because I had a really good experience with your sales rep. I really enjoyed like the whole process. And you guys really aren't that much different or better than anything else we looked at. It's literally just because we had a really good experience with your team. And that's what it came down to. The end. And I think we're seeing that way more in B2B because it's becoming so saturated.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing with, you know, service-based businesses, right? Your experience that you give that person, either as a creative or as a consumer, is like paramount to everything else.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I'm thinking about my experience with you guys, right?
Yeah.
So Film Lab, for you guys who don't know, Film Lab is used Scroll for running ads, being like a partner, all this stuff. And you guys were so on top of it. And our experience has been so positive over the years. I mean, I think we started working together in 2019, 2020.
Probably.
It was 2019, I think, was the first time. And you helped us get our biggest job when we did Avenue back in the day. So thank you for that.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. And they ended up getting shut down by like the FBI or something for
What?
fraud.
Seriously?
Yeah.
No
Independence
way.
University. Yeah. They ended up being fraudulent.
Shout
And
Shout
shout out. Love you guys. Thanks for
That's crazy.
But yeah, it was crazy. But
That was from
You
a
know.
Google ad, right?
it was from a Google ad.
Boom.
Yeah.
Don't
Bam.
sleep on Google ads.
Don't sleep on Google Ads.
It worked. But I mean, you guys gave us such a positive experience. And I would always joke when I talk about you guys to other people, I always joke and say I would feel bad getting on the calls every week with Dan because he was doing his job so well. And I was not doing the things. He'd be like, all right, let's follow up. Have you done this or this or this? We're like, no to all three. He's like, okay, well, we did this, and this, and now we're waiting for you guys to do your thing. And
That's how I feel every day going into work.
dude, what an incredible business partner you looked out, bro. But like
gosh.
the experience we had with you guys
Yeah.
was so positive, and you were so on top of it that, I mean, I don't know how many people we've recommended over to you guys over the years, but probably, you know, everybody I talk to, I bring you guys up to because it was such a positive experience. And at that point, you guys don't even have to sell yourselves because I'm over here doing it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well,
Dude,
and that's
you
a huge,
are.
that's, and
Dan
that's a
closed
huge thing.
someone this week from referral from you guys.
Let's go. Who was it?
Who was it?
Well,
You just closed that.
we closed Trophy Life.
Oh, was
That's
Trophy
No,
Life from you
Trophy
guys?
Life was from them.
Well, but who was the SEO account you just closed?
Oh, that was not from them.
Oh. Should have been.
Another referral.
Should have been.
It was
Come
another.
on.
It was another referral. That was up north in Coeur d'Alene. The guy in Coeur d'Alene.
Oh,
Well, hey,
Um,
there's evidence though. Referrals work.
no,
They do.
referrals. Honestly, it's huge. It's very underrated.
churn rate's way
and-
lower.
Mm.
Yeah, churn rate is way lower. It's also difficult. So like I think it can be easy once you have really good systems and processes, but when you first start, it's difficult. But it's absolutely key to have some kind of other source, some organic source, relationship based, because people buy from people at the end of the day, you know?
That's so true.
Okay, I have a question for you guys on the content side of things, though, because now my brain is spinning because I was thinking, oh, it's not about you. It's all about your consumer. And especially when you have a unique product and value prop, like,
Yeah.
then it's easy for consumers to want to buy. And you're focusing all on that, like, unique value prop solving their problem. But then also on the flip side, there's this other form of marketing where it's like, just tell a story. It's not about the product.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm kind of now questioning. I have an internal dialogue and I'm wondering, for someone starting a consumer product good, like, what's the best?
I mean, I think the best thing is, it's to your point, like there's 100 other people who probably have a similar product or can do the service as good as you. You know, Film Lab is not the best video production company in the world. I mean, hey, we're shooting for it and we're going to get there.
Yeah.
But there are thousands of other people who can make comparable, beautiful content. But what is going to actually truly set us apart? I mean, obviously there's the systems and processes and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, like Dan said, people want to work with people. And if people are bought in on Mitch Thayne and Parker Eastman and Mike Every and Talmadge Thayne and the whole team, right? Shout out, right? When they're bought in on the people and they're connected to the people, it doesn't matter if there's a bunch of other people that are better to work with or maybe could do it more professionally. They're like, no, I want to work with them. I'm invested in their story. I want to be a part of that. And especially when you're talking about a product and building that from the ground up, there's probably I don't know what your product is, but I think, and it's always a combination, right? I mean, you got to tell your story and you got to have a personality and be an individual so that people resonate with you. But then you still have to be able to articulate how you're going to solve their problems and bring them value at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
My opinion is you never know what works until you test it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think like it may
And who it might work on.
Yeah, and who it might work on, right? And that could be a different segment of your audience versus whatever. I'm quoting Gary Vee, but Gary Vee was like last week or something. I saw a video last week. He's like, if you're serious about content, you should be, and this is always Gary Vee. He always changes his number about how much content you should create. But he was like, you should create 57 pieces of content a day. And you should take every single segment of your audience and create all. And here's the thing: if you have the time, he's not wrong.
It's true.
Like
noise.
And there's so much content out there that you never know what is going to work. And so you have to test, and you have to be willing to get in front of the camera. You have to be willing to, talk about yourself, talk about your story. Nowadays,
Mhm.
it didn't used to be that way. It used to be that we could, like 20, 30 years ago, you could tell a really cool story about the product or whatever, and it would work, but it's not as much the case anymore.
Well, and you're your greatest salesperson, right?
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
if you're sitting there and you fully believe in what you're saying, people are much more likely to buy into that product or buy into that service because they're like, wow, this person is so passionate about what they do. And I just think of Minted. If you've heard of Minted, it's kind of like a running streetwear brand out of New York. And that guy's just all over New York, riding his Super 73, making new product, doing all this stuff.
And he's documenting the whole process.
Yeah, he's documenting the whole process. And it's just simple.
Milk Mom?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
Have you guys heard of Strawberry Milk Mom?
I definitely have not.
she's awesome.
Okay, she's my favorite TikToker on the face of the earth. She's the one that is always you've probably seen her. She posts all the time and says like reason number 97 why I love men. And she's
That's
like,
hilarious.
because when they go golfing, they like feel bad about it. Or they say all these she says all these random things. But she owns a swimwear brand as well. She never she talks about her swimwear brand one in every like 15 to 20 posts.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
other than that, it's her. She calls herself Strawberry, her sister's Coconut, like, and they are killing it.
Yeah, they
Like,
kill it.
They make so much money.
Used to only make stuff for women, and she's garnered a big male audience and is now releasing, like swimwear trunks and all sorts of stuff
Yeah.
directed at her, male audience now. But she's an absolute master at a case study of how to market your brand in just like, I feel like a really authentic way. And she started doing it during the pandemic when everybody started getting on TikTok. And she was just like, she was trying to, and she's been on a podcast because I listened to her, I can't remember which one it was, but she explained her like process and how she started doing this. And she was like, I started doing TikTok and started showing off like my swimwear pieces and stuff like that, and just like only doing that instead of like being funny and being entertaining and like really focusing on her audience instead of the product. And like all of a sudden she's like, one day she just got fed up and she was like, I'm going to just make a funny TikTok today. And it was her most viewed TikTok. And then she and it just that flip, just the switch happened. And she was like, this is what I'm going to do now. And she just started to be funny, and she knows her audience. She knows the people that buy her stuff so well that it doesn't matter. She doesn't even have to even show her product. She just is funny, So
that's incredible.
It's really, really interesting. She's an amazing case study on.
She's so good.
How to use
and her boyfriend, she doesn't ever show his face. Like she'll show the back of his head, and she calls him Brad, or she'll call him Jeremy, like just all these random names. But then she makes like men's swim shorts, and they'll say like Brad all over them.
That's hilarious.
Even though it's just like
a joking nickname.
Yeah, like she plays on her joke and builds it into her brand.
So it's kind of this inside joke with her audience and your community that like just random connection that she's leaning into, which is so smart.
I just think like she's probably the best case study of how to use content, right? Like she sits there and records literally just like laying in bed or sitting on the couch, a simple TikTok with humor.
Yeah.
I mean, Jay Davis of Creatively could speak to how important humor is in selling product.
Right.
It's massive.
And how it's like
they've
critical.
perfected that.
They have. Creatively is, I think, one company that is doing an awesome job when it comes to like the hero video stuff. You should have Jay on, I think.
Dude, I should. I mean, they've given us a rabbit to chase. I think the way that they approach brand stories and mixing humor and like just the way they approach it is very unique and very good.
Well, and the one thing that he said when he was on our podcast was, humor is kind of like the like the gateway drug emotion. If that makes sense. Because humor puts all the defenses down for everybody, like immediately. And that's universal. That's not just, old people, young people, whatever. It's everybody. Their defenses go down when it's funny, right? And that allows you to then influence. And that's definitely getting more into the psychology of it. But that's how and why they use the humor, is because it melts the defenses immediately and engages, and then you can educate, inform, and sell.
That's a really good point. That's an area we're probably pretty weak in. Like,
maybe
I'm just not that funny. It's like
it's tough,
dude.
It's not easy by any means, and it takes. I think I don't consider myself very funny. I like consuming funny content.
Yeah,
but
we all do.
We all do. It works, for sure. But it takes a lot of skill. It takes a lot of practice.
Well, we were talking about Barbie before this, and I feel like Barbie did a great job of, I mean, I didn't know what to expect when I saw the movie, but it's super funny.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And then all of a sudden they have this super intimate scene that makes you like want to cry. And Jay Davis spoke about that, how like humor is that gateway emotion where once you're willing to laugh, you're way more willing to cry. So it's that intro emotion into other things. But humor, I feel like, is critical in marketing any product at all. But
sheesh. Well, I love that. Well, I really want to switch gears a little bit because I think a big part of the value with you guys is, you're marketers, studs, right? But you're also entrepreneurs, and you're very entrepreneurial. And I think, again, a lot of the individuals listening are the creatives, but also people who want to be creative entrepreneurs. They want to figure out how to monetize themselves, how to grow, how to improve. And I think your guys' story is very unique and very cool. And I love the way that you guys approached it. It's very, very humble. It's very value focused. And like, I kind of wanted to get into that. And also,
Yeah.
shame on you guys for not talking about your story more because it is a cool story.
I feel like-
Hey, I posted
like
a TikTok about it recently.
I
we
feel
need
like
more
we've-
of it though.
we do need more of it. I feel like we've been really open about our story on LinkedIn, and we've kind of documented a lot
LinkedIn
there.
has been great. I agree.
But
we
it's
haven't-
LinkedIn. It's like
but
the most
LinkedIn.
boring social media.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of reach there, though.
But yeah, a lot of your business people that you want to work with are there though.
For sure.
So
It's just
it works.
boring.
yeah,
It works. It's just boring.
We need to be better at our story on social for sure. But yeah, like our story is interesting to say
I
the
think so.
least.
Yeah.
Dude, I was going to say, I feel like one piece of advice that I have for creatives that also want to be entrepreneurs is like, I, for a long time, didn't consider myself a creative, right? Because I'm more analytical. I'm more of a words person. I don't know how to edit a video or use Adobe, but I wouldn't limit yourself into assuming that you have to be a certain type of creative, right? Like I started posting on LinkedIn a few years ago and was like, wow, this is really, I started to get some traction and was like, okay, this is a form of creativity. Like writing content, just word content is a form of creativity. And then I started editing some reels and TikToks when I was traveling and realized like, oh, even just using my phone and using CapCut, like to create some fun stuff, like that is still being creative. And I think that's one piece of advice that I'd have is like, your audience is going to be somewhere, even if it's boring LinkedIn or something like that. Like I started posting on my Instagram, which is just family, friends, and we landed people like the space station from that.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of types of creativity that you can use. Don't think you have to follow exactly what Film Lab does or exactly what Creatively does. Like you could literally be a blog writer. There's all sorts of different ways to be creative and influence.
Yeah, and when I look at you and a lot of what your guys' creativity and how you express it in your business is it's problem solving. You know, like being able to look at something from a different perspective and solving a problem before it happens or figuring out how you're going to approach it differently or, you know, figuring out your pricing structure, whatever that is, you're having to utilize your brain and creativity to solve those problems. And that is something that is not focused on enough. That creativity can be expressed not just in what you're outputting, but the way you're approaching things.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting because, like, I mean, Rick Rubin's been really popular the last couple of. He's been popular for the last long time,
but especially
like he's been doing big media the last
Shout
couple
out to
months.
the album he did for the Avett Brothers.
Yeah, but he's interesting with creativity because I mean, with the book that he came out and with a lot of his philosophy is like creativity is. It's God-given. It's innate in us, and it is how we express everything, right? And I think that a lot of people don't realize that. They're like, I'm not creative or whatever, and all you need to do is just think a little harder, and you'd find that you're probably creative every single day, right?
Yeah. I feel like the word entrepreneur and creative are the same.
Hand in hand.
Yeah. Same
100%.
word almost,
hand in
right?
hand.
Like you got to creatively come up with a business plan, pricing structure. You got to creatively come up with like a SWOT analysis and do all that kind of stuff. So if you're creative and you want to be an entrepreneur, like your business plan is your best creative.
And the journey to be successfully getting there is not linear.
Yeah,
you know, you're taking offshoots and trial and error, and there's going to be it's a whole process of development, which is going to take you being able to analyze yourself, approach things differently, whatever. And it is creative, which is cool.
And I think it's hard too with creatives because I think we put other creatives on a pillar, we put influencers on a pillar, and they make it look easy,
right?
And you don't realize or don't maybe see like everything that's gone into every single day for the last years and the grind and all the things that went into it.
Exactly.
And we get frustrated when it doesn't work right away, right? But then you got to realize like it definitely is a journey, and being an entrepreneur is hard. It's not easy, and it definitely is not it creates and takes away freedom. But if you choose that path, you have to stick with it.
Yeah.
Like if you choose the path and you stick with it, you'll beat out everybody else as long as you just keep going.
You're outlasting them all.
You were saying this the other day too. It's like the grind and the mundane of doing everything every single day and just being consistent is so much better than giving up after a couple months, even though it's way harder. And it will take longer, but you will beat everyone else out if you don't quit.
Yeah.
Just having that tenacity. I mean, that's what you guys have done, right? You started.
Yeah.
And I've already compared this to you guys, but I built a production company, Avenue Film Co. You guys were our boys back then, right? We closed down in 2020. Things got hard. We got offered a way out to get acquired by Route, which was awesome. But then, 13 months later, I'm like, okay, I'm back to filming. Getting back to Film Lab.
It's the entrepreneur itch.
It's you can't escape it, right? But I went back to it, and I'm like, okay, starting from ground zero again, obviously with new experiences, and I learned a lot. We're building from the ground up, and that entire time, while I was kind of taking this, different route to, no pun intended, to explore something else, I really came back to what I was. You guys stayed consistent, and what you were able to do in that time has been pretty impressive.
And to be fair, like there are some times when you need to stop. There are some times when, especially if you have a family or if you have a lot more responsibilities than just yourself, like that it should come first to take care of yourself and take care of your family. Even if your business needs to shut down, so be it.
100%.
So like there's no like I wouldn't consider that failing if that makes sense. Like I think a lot of people would consider that, hey, my business failed, but it's like no, you needed to take care of your basic necessities, and sometimes we have to do that, right?
Right. But you guys stuck it out, which is cool. Yeah. And so I do want to just quickly dive into and hear the story from you guys, because I think there's so much value in hearing it takes away kind of like the magic of it all and like the mystery of it all when you're like, oh no, these are actually just two people who had unique talents, who came together, who built something together, and then, like you said, just actually stuck with it, and it has garnered and brought success.
Yeah. I mean, our first year together, I told my wife, I was like, we're just gonna, I quit my job. She had a full-time job.
We were lucky. You and I were both lucky that both our wives were working and our rent wasn't that
Like
expensive.
Dan had photography income. My wife worked a full-time job, but I left a job that at the time was paying me like $65,000 a year, which was great for me in 2016.
Right.
As like a 24-year-old, because I didn't graduate from college. I dropped out. So I was like, dude, I just cheated the system. Like somehow I'm making a salary. And I didn't go to school. Like I thought my cap without school was going to be like 40 grand a year or something,
Yeah.
Unless I figured something else out. So I kind of like to say my only option was entrepreneurship or sales, right? And if I'm going to do sales, I might as well be an entrepreneur because
you're just going to sell yourself anyway.
Right. It's like, if you're going to be really good at sales, then quit your job and sell for yourself. Like there's no reason, in my opinion, if you're good at it, to sell for someone else. So yeah, I mean, our first year, dude, I just told Dan, I was like, I got to make $700 a month because I got to pay for rent. And my rent was $700.
We have to make the bare minimum to pay rent, and we'll be good, and we'll figure that out. Right?
I literally remember the first month being like, so Dan, I just got to transfer myself like $700, and we just like Venmo'd me 700 and Venmo'd him 700, and we're like, all right,
let's keep going.
And
really, what it came down to, like we both had, and like you said, I think at the beginning we had different skill sets. We came together. We're like, let's make something of this, right?
Yeah,
and then we lost all of our clients that we had brought together within the first couple months. And we were like, oh, well, frick, what do we do now?
That didn't work.
Well, we have this office that we're paying rent on.
$365 a month for that office.
Exactly.
And isn't that
and
so
what are we
scary at the beginning?
You're
like, that overhead, just $365 a month, so overwhelming.
Dude, we bought a couch from Smith's Marketplace, those $300.
And it drained our bank account like at half.
You feel like you're balling.
I remember going to set up the bank account. This was before Dan and I had partnered up, and I went and I deposited 2 checks. One was like $1,700 and one was like $2,000. And the lady was like, oh, so you're a new business. That's awesome. I said, yeah, here's the checks. And that was all the money I was probably going to make in 2 or 3 months. But she was like, it's just nice to see a business that's like going to stick around and actually like grow with us here at the bank. And I was like, yeah, no, like we're legit. We're going to grow. I just remember feeling like such a baller with like those 2 checks.
Got my LLC and 2 checks in hand.
Yeah,
baby.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just thought, I was like, this is going to be the biggest deal ever. But yeah, I honestly, when it comes to like our story and the way that it works with anyone listening to this, is all we are is an example of consistency. That's all that we are. And consistency, ask yourself the question, right? Like, what is the result of consistency? When you water a garden, what's the result of consistency? When you take care of your body, what's the result of consistency? When you nurture your soul, what's the result of consistency?
Growth.
Yeah. Like, name one instance where being consistent is bad other than smoking. So it's like, you know what I mean?
Consistent bad habits.
Yeah, right. But consistency leads to a consequence, and whether it's good or bad. So you know, trust your instincts. That's what we did. Every day we'd come into the office, we worked like a normal job, and we kept going to the point where first few years we were by year 2.5, we were like, hey, let's up our pay $1,500 every 2 weeks. And we were making like $3,000 a month. And at that point I was like, dude, I'm making $3,000 a month. I don't have a boss. We were golfing a lot. We were playing Halo a lot.
We were having fun, man. We were having fun.
I had hired my brother-in-law, my cousin, a friend. Like, it was this cool vibe.
Right.
And we felt like we're growing this business. But at that time, I still don't think we felt like we were true marketers. We had learned more about web, and we had white labeled our services. So we were like,
we were really selling. We were selling a lot.
We were just salespeople, and we had gotten a little bit better at like design for web. Dan had really dove into that, and
he's got that eye.
Yeah. And it's funny because when we started the business, I was the web and SEO guy, and he was just social media. And now he knows 1,000 times more about web and SEO than I do.
Yeah, Dan's on speed dial for me if I have a question about that. 100%.
But yeah, like
consuming content, man. It's like half my job.
Yeah.
Eventually we decided to get rid of white label because we were spending like almost $10,000 a month on white label for all the sales that we had done, and we thought we could hire 3 people or
and
2
maybe
people.
For those that don't understand what that term is, I mean, you hear that term thrown around a lot, and a lot of people are like, "What is that?
What's that mean?"
But at least in the marketing world and the agency world, there's a lot of people that take their services and pretty much sell them to other people to use them, or vice versa, right? So pretty much you ask any agency and they're going to have an outsourced team of some kind, or they work with contractors or whatever. And those contractors can act like your
employees.
Team. Yeah. So for
much
several years,
a pyramid.
Yeah. Pyramid scheme, whatever. But pretty much for a couple of years, like Shane and I and the guys that we had working for us, we all just sold like all day long. And then we also were account managers, but we never actually fulfilled any services.
You would outsource that. Other people would run the ads.
Yep, exactly. We would outsource it to other people. And then, we would then report to our clients about what was going on. And that's extremely common in the agency world.
And now we're a white labeler.
Yeah, exactly. So we do work for other agencies now. And we made that switch of like, hey, we're realizing that, long term, it's going to be better for us to build an internal team that can actually like grow with us and probably also help us on our margins a little bit.
Right.
But a good way to say pause on that, right? If you are starting a business, what do you really want? You get to this point where you've grown a little bit, you start making a little bit of money, and now you have an opportunity. What do you want to do? Do you want to go down this route where all the work is being fulfilled for you and you can kind of
just cash
golf
out
more, play games, hang out with your friends and cousins and do all that? Like that was kind of the vibe because we weren't fulfilling work. We were just selling. So it was up to us when we really wanted to work.
Right.
Compared to you want to bring all that in-house, you want to build a team, you want to build an empire, you're going to be working a lot more. You're going to have a lot more pressure on you.
There'll be a lot more problems too.
Yeah.
But good problems.
But the upside's bigger though.
The upside's bigger depending on what you consider upside.
Are. Yeah.
Right. So, bringing all that in-house was huge for us. We grew like crazy. We implemented paid ads. like the second we launched paid ads for our own company, we went from, for a year and a half straight, we were doing like 30 grand a month. Within 2 months, we were doing 70,000. It was just almost
doubling.
mind blowing how quickly
Then it
we
doubled
grew.
over that next year.
And then it kept growing, and it just kept, and it's still to this day, paid ads is our number one source of being able to grow.
Yeah.
We'll grow 20% every year running paid ads and getting referrals. And we can just consistently pretty much bank on that without implementing any other crazy changes.
That is wild.
So yeah, it just depends on what you want to do. There are some days where I think both Shane and I would go back to what we had. And I also think there's plenty of other days where we're stoked about where we're at. We're excited about the future and what it holds. And there's way more options now.
Yeah.
You know, where just selling a service is not, I guess, being the salesperson for the service and not having an internal team. There's only so much so far you can take that. And,
Exactly.
you know, building an internal team is where it's at for longevity purposes.
Well, now, I mean, you know, Shane, you can build a product company and you can utilize your guys' incredible team at Scroll to build the website, to design the brand, to market and run ads for everything you're going to do, and which will lead to sales. Like,
and that's the
goal,
idea.
Which is cool.
That's the goal, and that's what we're doing now.
Yeah.
But I think also on that note is, what do you want out of business, and think really hard about it, because I didn't think hard about it. I was like, I just don't want a boss. I freaking hate working for people.
Been there.
I'm a terrible employee. Like hands down, worst employee you could ever hire, because I'm going to probably be the antagonizer. I'm going to question everything you ask me to do. I'm going to want to do it different. Like,
Dan's over here laughing. He's like, that still happens, bro.
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about?
But luckily here I'm top of the food chain, so I can do it.
Yeah.
And it's lucky. Like also, side note, like we got so lucky along the way. Consistency eventually breeds luck too. Like
you create your own luck with the consistency, for sure.
Reference back to a garden again, right? Like if you just consistently garden the same way every year, some years are going to be more fruitful than others. Like some years you're going to get a lot of vegetables. Other years you might not get as much. There might be bad luck. So that's a side note. But I've learned over the 4 years that I don't necessarily want an empire. Like I thought I wanted an empire, and that I wanted to build this $20 million brand and be CEO and like speak to teams and manage. But the further I get into that, right? We had an employee recently go to the hospital for weeks. And all of a sudden, instead of just caring about him, I have to worry about the logistics of his pay.
Covering for
I have to
him and
worry
all that.
about his medical.
Yeah.
I have to worry about these things. He's one of Dan's best friends, and it puts Dan in that position too. And then we have other situations where I have a really good friend that works for us that we have to let go because the department isn't in a good spot. And that was a terrible situation. So I learned over time, like, I don't want to be that guy. Like, I just, and that Dan and I have had real conversations about that over the last few months of like, what do we actually want out of this? Do we want to keep hiring all these people, or do we want to like maybe
want to grow in other ways?
Yeah. So I think that's a real question to ask yourself. It's cool that you might think you want to be a leader and grow a big company right now, but give it a few years and of doing it, and maybe that's not what you actually want.
Yeah, I mean, there's the whole thing of begin with the end in mind, but you know, as you actually get on the path and you start progressing, you might realize that the end you thought you wanted isn't actually it, and it's okay to pivot and progress and grow.
Yeah, and life changes you. You know, like it really does. Like beyond what happens in your business, your personal life can majorly affect everything and change your goals, change what you want. You know, and be open to adapting and changing. And that's the ultra creative entrepreneur, in my opinion, is someone that can adapt, you know, and also be consistent and go with the flow. But adaptation is just huge.
Well,
So
you guys are incredible examples of that. And I could talk to you for the next like 5 hours about this, because I think everything you guys are talking about and sharing is really, really important at the end of the day. And what I love that we're ending on this tone, that there needs to be a balance, and personal fulfillment is also a really key and important part.
Yes.
Like, I am a prime example of somebody who just gutted myself for years. I neglected my health. I neglected relationships with my family. I literally took 4 days off to be with my daughter when she first got born, right? Because I felt like I had to get back to the grind and the hustle and the pursuit of this thing I thought I wanted. But at the end of the day, what we all really want is we want peace internally. We want to feel like we're progressing in a variety of ways. We want strong relationships, and just there needs to be that balance, and that is kind of the most important thing. And so understanding what your goals are, what you actually want, not what feels cool or sexy in the moment, and you're like, oh, that would be sick, but being able to identify that is really important.
Yeah, totally agree.
And if you're going to pick a business partner, pick one like Dan.
Yeah, Dan, do you have a twin brother, dude?
Like, we're honestly like, we're super lucky. Like, it was Shane's birthday yesterday, so happy birthday to Shane. And I was just reflecting on like our relationship, and we're very lucky. I think I said in a LinkedIn post yesterday, I said good business partners are rare, and Shane's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like, it's very much, especially if you choose to have a business partner, which in some cases you don't need one and maybe shouldn't have one. But I think if you do choose one, choose wisely and choose one that you feel like is almost like a marriage. It really is almost like a marriage. Yep. You have, there's going to be hard times. There's going to be good times. There's going to be funny times. There's going to be times where you don't like each other or don't like what each other's saying or whatever, right? You're going to have arguments. There's going to be all of that. Right. And you have to find somebody who's willing to work through all that stuff with you.
Well, I will say you guys are a beautiful couple.
Thank you.
And no, but I know really how that is. I know how that is. And I'm so grateful to have Mike as a business partner as well, who has different perspectives and but similar values, right?
Yeah, the values thing is huge.
Which is everything. But again, super appreciate you guys being on here. For those of you guys who are listening and made it to the end, if you want to, you should follow both Dan and Shane. Holy cow. I almost said Dan and Shay. I almost said scroll, dude. Dan and Shay.
See, it's my identity.
Hey, I like Dan and Shay. We joke about that all the time.
It works. But seriously, follow Dan, follow Shane. They both have incredible stories, incredible people. Hit them in the DMs. They're really good dudes and are always free to give advice, right, guys?
Yes,
always.
Because at least you give me advice all the time.
Yeah.
Always.
I love it. Okay, well, thanks guys for tuning in.